As you're probably already aware, the systemic racism narrative that's woven all throughout the culture war between people on the right and the left is here to stay. And with its presence, us on the right have to be even more outspoken against the absolute brainwashing by our media, some of our politicians, and some of our churches that subscribe to this woke agenda. Their agenda is simple: dismantle all American systems and root out all racism, whether real or imagined. Basically, you have two options: either be an anti-racist as described by Ibram X. Kendi, or continue in your non-woken state and be complicit in all the racism that exists today. Today, I wanted us to have some fun with, in my opinion, the most woke sports commercial of 2020, and just break down the absolute twisted narrative that's behind this commercial. But before we get into that, make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I make a video. And with that out the way, let's dive in. So this commercial came after the George Floyd incident, and to sum it up, it's basically twisted from beginning to end. Take a listen.
It's been 10 days since George Floyd was brutally murdered.
How many times do we need to ask you to listen to your pledge?
What will it take
for one of us to be murdered by police brutality?
What if I was George Floyd?
If I was George Floyd?
What if I was George Floyd?
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 I am George Floyd.
All right, so let's get the most obvious thing out the way. No, you're not George Floyd. If you're not a fan of the NFL, you may not have noticed that in this short clip, some of the best players in the NFL were represented. Patrick Mahomes, Saquon Barkley, DeAndre Hopkins, Patrick Peterson, just to name a few. And here's a fun fact: Pat Mahomes is going to make over $500 million over the next 10 years. And if you add all the other players together, their incomes are going to be around $1 billion. But the money is not what makes them different than George Floyd. The main reason why they aren't George Floyd is because everybody in that clip is a law-abiding citizen and minds their own business, outside of maybe Odell Beckham, but even he doesn't have the same rap sheet as George Floyd. What do I mean? They want us to forget this. Take a look at this. George Floyd's criminal history in Harris County, Texas. So this was before he left Texas and he went to Minneapolis, Minnesota. And I'm not going to read it all, but you guys can see for yourself. He was arrested 9 times, including aggravated robbery, trespassing, all right, theft. He was arrested 9 times between 1997 and 2007. And here are the mugshots to correlate with these arrests. And these are just some of the mugshots because not all the mugshots are readily available. So the reason why I'm bringing that up is because prior to the incident in 2020, George Floyd had a knack for getting in trouble. So now when we enter into early 2020, this is what happens. George Floyd gets high on fentanyl, and then he ends up passing counterfeit bills at a gas station. The police get called on him. He resists arrest. One thing leads to another, and the man ends up dying. New court docs say George Floyd had a fatal level of fentanyl in his system. Defense attorney argued drug overdose and pre-existing health condition caused Floyd's death. New documents filed in the George Floyd case give new information about the Hennepin County medical examiner's findings in Floyd's autopsy. Handwritten notes of a law enforcement interview with Dr. Andrew Baker, the Hennepin County medical examiner, said that Floyd had 11 ng/ml of fentanyl in his system. If we were found dead at home alone and no other apparent causes, this could be acceptable to call an OD. Deaths have been certified with levels of 3s, Baker told investigators. In another new document, Baker said that this is a fatal level of fentanyl under normal circumstances. So with all that said, no, none of these players are George Floyd, but if you hear the story from them, in the eyes of the American police, they are George Floyd. And it's unfortunate that they see themselves through an untrue lens.
We will not be silenced.
We assert our right to peacefully protest.
It shouldn't take this long to admit.
So, on behalf of the National Football League,
This is what we, the players,
Would like to hear you state.
we, the National Football League,
Condemn racism and the systematic oppression of black people.
we, the National Football League,
Admit wrong and silencing our players from peacefully protesting.
we, the National Football League,
Believe Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black lives matter.
The only thing they get right, in my opinion, is that they should have been allowed to peacefully protest like they were doing. I personally don't believe that they should have kneeled to the national anthem, but it is their constitutional right to peacefully protest. But everything else in that video is wrong and is a consequence of what happens when you don't view yourself as an individual, but you view yourself as a collection of people. What happened to George Floyd was because of George Floyd. No other black person has to say, I am George Floyd, because in America, you're not. You are who you are. And as we enter into 2021, it's up to us to say the truth and not join into the rhetoric of the tribalism of race. That's pretty much all I got for you guys on this one. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I make a video. Drop a comment below. See you on the next one. Peace.